Well, the BENCHMADE ADIRAs have officially docked, and we're gonna find out today if they have permission to disembark and become part of our everyday carry rotations, or if it had been better for them to just go down with the ship. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another blade review here at Gideonstactical, where in this video, we're gonna unpack these two blades. I got early releases on both the full size as well as the mini, so I've had a few months of use with these and how they might stack up to their siblings, while also addressing a little controversy around the springs. And I got a corrosion test planned for us to see how this MagnaCut steel resists the rust, and how one of these models has a design characteristic that's getting under my skin. So guys, it's gonna be a blast today as I share my findings and perspective with you on BENCHMADE's new water series of folders. Let's go ahead and dive on in. So I wanted to kick things off by giving you some size perspective compared to a few other BENCHMADEs you may be familiar with. So I got the full-size Griptilian and the full-size Adamas. The Adamas is very similar in size to the full-size ADIRA. The Adamas is just gonna be 2 ounces heavier at about 6.4 ounces, and it's gonna have a thicker blade stock and some other details we'll hit a little bit later. Then if we look at the full-size Griptilian, you can see it kind of sits right in between the mini ADIRA and the full size, with the mini ADIRA actually having a very similar blade length, but a shorter handle than the full-size Griptilian. Now, knives with this design, I would expect to have excellent precision. I'm not looking for them to be ultra thick and kind of hulking and bulky. I want them to be slim and slicey, and both of these knives perform excellent in those type of tasks because of the flat grinds in conjunction with the edge geometry that they went with. These are lightsabers. They are gonna fillet through whatever type of material you're gonna come in contact with. I use them mainly as everyday carry knives, going through cardboard, going through hemp rope, doing some food prep, zip ties, cordage of every type that I get my hands on, rubber, even feather sticking if you're gonna use them around a campfire. Say maybe you're gonna canoe across a lake and you're in the boundary waters and then you're gonna, make camp. Does it perform well? And I'm really pleased. I mean, they do really slice well, and they're not on par with a dedicated fillet knife, but they fillet, and that word really connects with me when I'm describing how I have seen the performance for both of these tools. Now, there's one attribute to the steel choice on these ADIRAs that left me scratching my head a little bit. Let me explain. But before we go any further in the video, I do want to invite you, if you're enjoying this type of content, to hit the like button and to consider subscribing if you're not yet a subscriber here at the channel, making sure to hit the bell icon so that you can be notified every week when I break down new pieces of gear and equipment to help you better determine for yourself if it's right to throw into rotation and start using or not. And it is you, the viewers, in partnership with our regular sponsors that help me get out here and test that gear and equipment. And I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, which is 511, and want to make you aware of 511 days going on now through May 14th, where you can score 20% off gear and apparel. And I always look forward to this sale. In fact, I just pulled the trigger on 3 pieces of gear I've been having my eye on for a while. And whether it's days at the range that you have planned with all of their different plate carriers, pouch organizers, and my favorite 2-banger and 4-banger slings that I always have ready to go at a moment's notice. Or if you have heavy loads to haul, there's the legendary Rush series of backpacks, including several of their starter bundles that have everything included to get you going. Along with a huge selection of some of my all-time favorite pairs of pants, the 511 Apex series, and I have 2 pairs that are over 3 years old that are still going strong. So I'll have links in the description box below over to the 511 website, where you guys can go ahead and start exploring all the different pieces of gear and equipment. Or you can hop on over to your local brick and mortar store so you can get your hands on that piece of gear you've been eyeballing. So I invite you to check them out and get geared up for all your upcoming adventures. And now these knives are made CPM MagnaCut steel on both of these knives. And in fact, the entire water series that is being released will be sporting that MagnaCut. Now, I've used MagnaCut extensively at this point. I really do enjoy the steel. If you have not yet used it, you should try it out on a blade. It is a really good performer. If you already own a MagnaCut steel blade, leave your thoughts. I'd love to know what you guys think and how has it been performing for you guys. Now, what about the hardness of this MagnaCut? Well, BENCHMADE states that the entire water series is Rockwelled at 60 to 62 on the Rockwell scale, which a lot of companies are doing for MagnaCut. But MagnaCut can go quite a bit higher on the Rockwell scale. As a quick example, I have here the Ursus Cub from White River Knives, made here in the USA, sporting MagnaCut, with a Rockwell of 62 to 64. So this is a harder MagnaCut than on the ADIRA series, meaning that this would potentially hold its edge longer than the ADIRA, whereas the ADIRA would be tougher than the Cub. So that's something on a pocket knife, I would trade durability for edge retention. I could see it on a much larger knife. As a quick example, here's an AK8 from Architect Knives video coming soon in MagnaCut. This is an 8-inch blade. I could see a lower Rockwell because we want toughness for a giant blade like that. Now, the only thing I can think of why they're doing a little bit lower Rockwell is because there are 7 and 9-inch fillet knives in the Benchmade Water series, and I watched a video on that, and those suckers flex, and you want some flexibility when you were doing filleting of a blade with a really thin stock thickness. And so maybe they're wanting to just keep consistency across the entire line. So it's not bad. The edge retention is good for MagnaCut and has been performing very well compared to many of my other pocket knives with similar Rockwells. But it's kind of like having a V8 that you didn't tune. This is tuned to be, you know, a little bit longer on the edge retention. This is tuned to be a little bit tougher. So just take that, weigh that in consideration when you are looking at the ADIRA series. And leave a comment below. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on the whole Rockwell hardness, toughness to edge retention debate. And before we move on from the blade itself and look at the other attributes in the design, let's go ahead and test out the rust-resistant capability of this MagnaCut. So the average concentration of salt in seawater, 2 teaspoons, and I want to make sure I said that, teaspoons, not tablespoons, teaspoons. So I've done 2 teaspoons right there of salt. There we go. Now the average diver can dive with oxygen for about 60 minutes, 45 to 60 minutes. So we're gonna do 1 hour, and I'm gonna do the MagnaCut on the Mini. But we're also gonna do this AUS 8 because I just am curious what like very cheap basic semi-stainless steel will do. 602, so we're gonna come back at about 7 and we'll just see what happens. All right, so it's been exactly an hour that these guys have been soaking. And so now I'm gonna let them sit overnight. So there you go, pretty basic test, but just shows you how basic stainless steels like AUS 8 and things like that aren't going to be able to compete with the rust-resistant capability of MagnaCut. Now, what about the confusion surrounding these springs? But before I address that, let's just hit deployment here real fast. It is silky smooth, and guess what? It's not on ball bearings. These are rocking bronze washers. Thank you so much, Benchmade, for sticking to that. I hope more companies follow suit. They're so less of a headache in maintenance. They don't get gunked up with stuff and grime, a lot easier to just maintain. And I love a good solid bronze washer. Ball bearings are fine with like kind of like fancy, classy, like gentleman knives. But I mean, for me, if you're asking me between the two, I'm gonna go bronze washers every time. So to see those big giant washers in there just makes me really happy. And it's still just like buttery smooth on the deployment. The thumb studs with the scalping of the handle are just excellently placed. We'll talk color and those orange, you know, in a little bit. The tip is buried nice and deep on both of these. You're not gonna accidentally get it. Now, I actually disassembled my model to confirm, and maybe they're gonna update at some point or whatever. These have the original Omega springs on this models that I have. They do not have the newly released, that Benchmade released this year, flattened torsion springs. That some testing that I watched over at Cutting Board RX. Big shout out to him and his channel. He does yeoman's work on like very detailed, has a lot of specs and, you know, testing equipment that I do not to test things out. Potentially, time will tell, that particular flattened Omega spring should have more durability than the original Omega springs. And then there were some other videos being posted that the new flattened springs were on the ADIRA line. At least on my models, they are not. So just to clear things up and make sure we're all on the same page. And I've had dozens of Benchmades over the years, never had an Omega spring break on me. I know it happens to some people sometimes. It's never been a durability issue for me, but as they eventually probably transition to this for their models, you know, more durable, always better. Now, how about the ergonomics and that one issue that's starting to kind of get under my skin? Well, when we look at these models, the handle material is made out of Gryvery, so that's a dense polymer. You're gonna get kind of that same clackiness that you get with a Griptilian, so it has kind of that vibe to it. I don't know what material, if that's like aluminum, steel, I would assume it's steel. You know, it doesn't say, I looked on the BenchMADE website. You got a backspacer though, little kind of hits of tactile feel right there, so that's good. Flow through construction, no liners in there, just steel around the whole locking housing down to basically that bolt. And then there's just polymer behind that, but it's rigid. It doesn't really flex. You know, they've cross-membered it inside there really well. So that's a really good aspect. This is a 5-inch, like 5.1 inch handle. On the full size, you're looking at 4.25, I believe. Maybe, yeah, 4.25 on the mini. And you got a good girth as well at like 0.666, I think, on the maximum thickness right there. Now, what I really like is that we got 4 inches of space right here. So that really gives me a lot of real estate. We got a little bit of jimping on the back end, great deep cut in right there, blocky jimping up on the spine. It's not sharp, but really gives me a really locked in feel. And for a knife that's designed to be around water and moisture, you want a really good, confident grip. This gives me excellent confidence to really put pressure, cut through stuff. I know I'm not worried about sliding up on the blade, even in a reverse grip. I mean, I'm really in control of the design. And then we have some like wave patterns here, some kind of fish, kind of fin looking stuff. They do taper the bottom portion right there, which I was kind of like, is that gonna be bad? Totally works. It cuts in and gives my fingers like a little bit of like, I don't know, a transition in, and I like it. So on the full size ergonomically, I have zero complaints and really does fit well. You'll have to forgive the wind gusts. We were supposed to have like 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts today, and it's hitting every once in a while. So you're getting, I mean, you're just getting a very similar traction points, and it definitely has a similar kind of profile to the Adamas, but it's gonna be much lighter at like 4.1 ounces for the full size. The Adamas, I think, is, I can't even remember. Is it pushing 8 or is it pushing 7? Now my issue is with the Mini. Shocker, right? The Mini with the lanyard, and they both will come with this little lanyard right here if you're into that stuff, is 3.2 ounces, so probably 3 ounces if you take the lanyard off. The exact same kind of concept, but that shorter handle, and the dimension in here from guard to bird beak is 3.3 or 3. Sorry, 3. I think it's, yeah, 3.3, I believe. Well, my span of my hand right here from knuckle to knuckle is about 3 1/4. And when you actually grip the tool, my pinky ends up getting on that bird beak and creating a pretty aggressive hotspot. It's not comfortable for me when I'm grabbing the tool in the natural grip and really putting pressure back in there because it's such a small gap. So for me, ergonomically, the Mini is almost a non-starter. And honestly, it's because of the bird beak. Because even if I hold the Mini bug out, though small and my pinky is half falling off, because it's got a really nice contoured rounded back end and no bird beak, I can grip it and it's not creating a pressure point. Same with the Griptilian family. Feels great with this full size, but even the Mini, because it's rounded back there and doesn't transition up hard, I can grip and use all day, and I've owned a Mini in the past without issue. It's because of this bird beak that causes a hot spot and just isn't comfortable for my large size hands with that 3 1/4 span width. So honestly, I wish and hope just more companies in general will go with this model if they're gonna go Minis, by giving just a very gradual transitional rounded back end and no bird beak, and then people with larger hands could still grip the tool and not create a hot spot. So if you have small to medium hands, the Mini shouldn't be an issue, but if you have large to extra large, I would definitely stick with the full size. All right, so how about pricing? Now, it's a BenchMADE, so I know that there are American-made, Magna Cut, crossbar knives that are out there that you can absolutely get for cheaper price points. And that's just the way BenchMADE is. So either you like the designs and they connect with you and you want to pursue it, or you prefer to go with something else and maybe save some coin. Well, the Mini is going for MSRP, are these prices, $230, and the full size is $260. So not radically unreasonable for large, I mean full size, you know, pocket knife and more compact sporting magnet cut and all the features and design attributes that we have. Particularly when I look at the full size, I mean, there's really nothing that I can complain about with it, and it's going to be more inexpensive and lighter and more rust resistant than the Adamas. So, overall, I think it's a good addition and kind of sits in a good middle price point to other Benchmades that are out there currently. And so I look forward to hearing from you guys. What's your take on the ADIRA line, this water line in general? If I miss something, I'll do my best to answer them in the comment section below. Always appreciate your guys' feedback, data. I hope this video has just been fun for all you blade lovers and addicts, but also informational for those of you who are really wanting to know what the aspects and the pros and cons of the ADIRA line. And let me know, is it better for it to go down with the ship, or is it got permission in your rotation to disembark and become part of your pocket knife family? Always appreciate you guys hanging with me today. Check out the other video popping up and subscribe. And until next time, always remember to stay equipped, stay prepared, and I'll see you out there.